Right, in this movie we're going to be making the Earthworks, and we're going to be making it out of this stuff, which is polystyrene, or as you Yanks call it, Styrofoam. Now, you can get blue and pink foam specifically for modelling, and it's great stuff, but I find it's a bit expensive. Now, I use this stuff because for earthworks and stuff that's going to be covered, it's perfect, it's cheap, it's easy to get hold of. I actually bought a huge sheet of 8x4 of it, 2-inch thick, for £10, and that's going to last me all year. Now, to cut this stuff, we're going to use one of these, which is a hot wire cutter. Basically, it's an electric tool. It has a thin wire running between these two prongs, and electricity passes through it, warms up the wire, and it melts through as it cuts. Now, a word of warning, it's a hot wire cutter, so the wire's hot. Resist the temptation to put your finger on to check, because trust me, it really does hurt. Right. What we've got to do is, this is a corner piece that I've cut off my 8x4 sheet. Now I need to trim this to bring it in line with this, so it will fit on here perfectly. Now, this is the base I'm wanting to make. So, I'm going to whack it on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the edges of the corner with the base. And then we've got this overhang here. Now obviously, if we want it to be modular, we need it trimmed. Now to trim it up, I find the best way of doing it is to line it up perfectly, put another base on top, and this is really worth spending a little time just to make sure that it is spot on. Now once you've got your bases perfectly lined up, you've got this bit of overhang here that we're going to trim off. And all I'm going to do is bringing it up and using the hot wire cutter. Now it's important you do this slowly. The quicker you do it, the more heat transfers from the wire into the polystyrene. The wire cools down and can't cut that well. If you do it slowly, you get a really nice clean cut. So basically I get my hot wire cutter, I go up to where the boards are, and there we have it. A perfectly flush side, quick sand over that, be excellent, and it fits perfectly. Once you've cut your polystyrene to the right size, next thing we need to do is trim off this edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our base as a template. Simply place the base straight on the top and it should fit really spot on, because that's why we measured it up. Use a marker pen and just follow the edge round. Once you've got that done, you're left with a black line where you need to cut out. Now the key thing to remember here is we're actually going to be cutting a little later, an inch forward in, because this is the edge of the base, and actually the polystyrene isn't going to start for another inch because of our beveled edge. Okay, so we'll get cracked on with cutting this out. Hot wire cutter. Once you've trimmed it down and taken the edges off and followed your line, you should have a piece of polystyrene that matches the contour of the base. The next stage we're going to do is we're going to mark up the polystyrene with our actual plan from the one from the base and one from the plans we did earlier. From there we'll start cutting, so I'm going to mark it up now. Once you've marked off all the areas you intend to cut out, like I have here, I've black striped them to make it clear. Communication trenches, side exits, and then extra trenches themselves, the 1-inch space for the beveled edge. The other thing that's important to do at this stage is come up with a cardboard template of the profile of the trench. Now I've made this from the actual plans. That's the slope of the trench that people are going to go up, and those little 2 nicks there are just simply to show me where the trenches need to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark up the side of the piece with that. And what this will do is if I use this on every single piece, that will make sure that every single piece the profile matches. It doesn't really matter about the middle bits, but when it comes to the ends, as long as they match this cardboard profile, this template, we're laughing. They'll sit next to each other, snug, everything will line up. So what I'm going to do is mark that up now. Using the template and the plans, we've managed to mark up everything that needs cutting out, both on the top and on the side, to give us the profile of the earthworks. The next thing is just to slowly work through these and cut the meat all out. As you go, I find it's best that as you cut a piece out, actually put it on the board. Even the waste stuff, just put it next to each other on the board so you know where all the bits are. There's nothing worse than cutting all your bits out, then looking down and realising you're not exactly sure where things are supposed to go. So take your time, do it methodical, it'll work really well for you. So I'm going to crack on with start cutting out these, whilst maintaining my profiles and keeping the bits that I need to keep. Let's crack on. Okay, I've finished cutting it out, and basically what I've got is I've got my front earthworks and my back earthworks. You'll notice that I've already started carving the surface, but all I've done is taken away the waste. I haven't taken that much off. If you notice, the profile that we need is still there, including we need to take about ½ an inch off the top of these to make it not too tall that we can't even get guys shooting over the top. Now with cutting this down, what I've actually done is I've come in and I've done a cut. First, like that, and sheared it along, and then trimmed it down. Now like I say, this isn't the finished surface, this is just a way of cutting down the excess, so this is more manageable and easier to work with rather than one large block. Next stage is just to check your model out. Remember, none of these are glued down, and I just want to figure out how it's actually sitting and make sure it's following the template. So if I put my template down, I can see that, yeah, the entrance fits nice and clearly, the gaps are where they're supposed to be. We can always file this down a little with a bit of sandpaper later, so don't worry about, you know, an odd millimetre or two here or there. If we lift it up and actually sit it on the base, we can actually see, yeah, we haven't cut into the profile at all, as you can see by the slash lines, and that's what we're going to have to do next. But before we do, what we do need to do is trim these down. Right, simple trick for cutting these down to height, and now I need this 1.5 inches high and it's currently 2 inches. Get yourself a piece of corrugated cardboard, cut it to the right width, and simply place it round your piece, and then with your hot wire cutter, simply cut along the template, and the cardboard will act as a guide, giving you 1.5 inch high piece and a ½ inch piece. Now these ½ inch pieces, as you're cutting it down, I'm going to save because I'm going to use them in a minute. So I'm not going to discard those, I'm going to put them over to the side. Now as you can see by the template, I've managed to get it squared up, so that's now ½ inch high. I need to trim down this one, and we're going to use our corrugated guide again. Instead of wrapping it around, we're just going to simply put it straight along. So we'll take this piece off, and this is why it's important not to glue it yet. Our next job is going to be trimming this down to size. Now I've got my same piece of corrugated cardboard, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hot wire cutter, and I'm going to drag it along. It's not going to be flat, it's going to be at a slight angle. All I really care about is getting this line here right. I can shape up the other side once I've got that done, but I need to get this line here right first. So, hot wire cutter. And there we have it, 1.5 inches high, shaved down. We've got a little step there, but don't worry about that, we can clean all this off in a little while. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to work myself along and just take off ½ an inch off the top of this, using this as a guide. Now I've used my guide and I've cut this down to 1.5 inches high.